Ghana for Memamwachio in Dinami. I greet all of you. Welcome to the show that stands for the truth. This show always reminds me of my hall in the University of Ghana back then, Commonwealth Hall. And you know our motto, truth stands. Bitter, sweet, the truth is the truth. No credit, it is what it is. And as always, I'm going to speak the truth to you and the truth to power, holding the feet of those responsible, accountable, holding their feet to the fire of accountability. And that's why this morning I've titled my blunt thoughts, Firefighting without firefighters and Planning without planners. What the indices show. Firefighting without firefighters and planning without planners. What the indices show. Now, I just want to start from here. Today, my focus is on the slides. I have about 17 of them, so I'm going to go very quickly. But I wanted to start with this. Think about it. In recent times, Guyana, you know Guyana. Some people confuse it for Ghana. When you go abroad, they say Guyana? No, Ghana. But Guyana is that country, small though it may be, in a different part of the world. In recent times, they've had an oil boom. And guess what? I've been reading that story, and it makes me happy for them. It makes me sad for us. Because the government decides to give over 100,000 Guyanese, not just those in Guyana, but even those abroad. Once you are over 18 or 18 and above, and you have your national ID to prove that you're a citizen, you are getting 100,000 Guyanese currency. That's the equivalent of about 370 pounds for everybody. The wealth of the nation, the country is managing the wealth and also saying that this is some sort of surplus. Everybody will benefit. 370 pounds. Multiply that by 21. Go ahead. Use your phone or your calculator. Multiply by 21. How much is that? You could do with that at least this month. Adilai. That's what's happening in Guyana. Here, what we are distributing is debt. Yaboka. The last time I checked, if they distributed our debts, each person would be paying over 22,000 Ghana cedis. That is where we are. And that is why sometimes it is good to put things into proper perspective. So that you know, if you are racing after this party, that party, you know, sit down. Think about the situation. Where am I? And that brings me here. I am so worried about this bit I'm starting with because, Charlie, if fire hits your house, there was this day recently, some months back, I went by this place in Jowulu. I was heading out and I called and called and called different lines, emergency lines, fire service and everything. It took a while before when I was returning, that was when I saw that, you know, the fire service had showed up, by which time a certain structure around Bayura Junction, you can corroborate, Bayura Junction, was getting burnt. And the sad part was it was more of a wooden structure. You know that burns quickly. And other buildings could have been affected. But did you know, according to the Ghana National Fire Service, what I'm sharing with you in the first few slides, they are not from me. They are data from the Ghana National Fire Service. If you look at Ghana's firefighting crisis, the appliances available, which are already a paltry sum, 248, out of which 133 are faulty. Do you know what that means? 115 of them are not working. Completely dysfunctional. They don't function. Next slide. Now, if you go to the next slide, it will show you that that accounts for 53.6% of firefighting trucks in Ghana being faulty. Because apart from those ones you see there, there are others that are not exactly in the best situation. So 53.6%, though it's a smaller number on the other end, but if you put it together, 53.6% of them are faulty. Let's go to the next slide. The breakdown is what begins to scare you. Because if you're in the Upper East region, it means you don't have even one. That's what it means. Upper East region, 16 available trucks. How many are faulty? 16. So if you have a fire situation in the Upper East region, you might as well, you know, start looking for sand and mixing it with water and throwing it on there, depending on what kind of fire it is. OT region, 8 available trucks. 8 of them faulty. So if you're in the OT region, you know what time it is. Volta region, 17. 15 are faulty. 2 Nakan, when will they get to you? Upper West, 14 of them, 12 are faulty. Only 2 are working. Central, 22, 15 are faulty. 7 are left. Next slide. The Ghana National Fire Service headquarters, you know where it is? Getting to Osu. 8 available, 6 faulty, only 2. It appears even in the best of places, you would find maximum 7, 2. How? Greater Accra, 25, 15 are faulty. That leaves us with 10. Look at the size of the Greater Accra region. If you have a fire in some areas, because in some areas too there are concentrations, in some places I don't want to mention, it literally means, I'm not saying virtually, literally, you're on your own. Northeast, 5. 3 of them are faulty. Northeast, this is our Vice President's region. Western, 16, 9 of them faulty. So you have what? 7 of them active. Highest being 7. Ashanti, well, the highest being the difference here, Greater Accra, 10. Ashanti, 25, 6 of them are faulty. So at least there, 19 of them work, but 6 of them are faulty. Next slide. And you want to ask yourself, with this kind of data, which serious planning country will be here? Guyana, they may not be the best plushest country in the world, but from their oil wealth and other things, they are even able to say we've saved enough to do something for the country, and we have an excess, and we are giving over 100,000 of you citizens, once you can prove, and you are 18 and above, £370. Here it is debt we are sharing. So, Upper East, 100% in terms of 40 trucks. All of them are faulty. All of them are faulty. The best performing is the northern region, 15.3% of them being faulty. It's also about the number, right? Look at that. Volta, 88%. Upper West, 88.7, 75, 68, 60. Accra, 60%. Northeast, 60%. And it goes on and on. Why should it be like this? This is why sometimes, I was just reading an article yesterday, and because I read widely, sometimes I can put this into proper perspective. I was reading it about an American who is now in Australia, who says, look, I pay 20 point something percent of my revenue, right? My income in taxes in the US. In Australia, I'm paying upwards of 40%, but at the same time, I get it back in so many ways. So for her, instead of in America, where she'll be paying X amount of dollars and all of that, when she uses a bus, train, tram, all of those things, she's paying cents. In other words, she's saving from there. So what she's paid goes back to help her. If there are emergencies, housing and other things, all of that fits into it. She doesn't pay this property tax. No, in Australia, she doesn't pay it. And so she thinks that even while it is 40-something% there, it makes sense for her. Here, they'll tell you and pay taxes. And then what can you show me? What you are using my taxes for? My roads are bad. Health services are bad. Governance is bad. Practically everything is on its knees. My water is facing crises because of Galamsey. Yet you tell me you want me to pay more taxes. More taxes to do what? Next slide. Now, key areas without firefighting trucks. You know one thing that really got me? The Korle Bu area. So we are talking about the most major hospital in our country, maybe if you take away the UGMC, right? It's a teaching hospital. People come from the sub-region here to Korle Bu. If there's a fire today in Korle Bu na yenimno, if there's a fire today, there's no fire tender in that area to deal with the fire. Did you know that? That is it. Without a firefighting truck, Korle Bu doesn't have it, that area. There's none. It may have to come from a faraway place, likely Ghana National Fire Service headquarters, by which time what must be burnt will get burnt. The Nalerigu Fire Service Regional HQ, nothing. Nasia Fire Post in the Northeast region, nothing. The Tolong area in the Northern region, nothing. This is our country. I know you may be shocked, but this is our country. So please watch yourself. Watch your gadgets. Don't leave gas on and all of that. Take care of yourself, because if there's a fire, believe you me, in some instances, literally, in some instances, virtually, you're on your own. Let's go to the next slide. Now, if you look at the 2024 Afrobarometer survey, when it comes to governance issues, it talks about the most important problems in Ghana 2024. Unemployment, 41% saying that's their major problem. Infrastructure or roads, 38%. Health, 33%. Education, 28%. Management of the economy, 25%. Let's go to the next slide. Then, the relevant problems in the top 5, increasing cost of living, 21% say this is my major thing. Corruption, 10%. Electricity, 8%. It's interesting that electricity is here. And then poverty or destitution, 7%. And I always say we have, minimum wage in this country, but people are being paid below minimum wage. And the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is watching. Next slide. The bottom 3, you're looking at democracy or political rights, 5%. Rates and taxes, 5%. Wages, incomes, and salaries, 4%. You make of it what you will. Next slide. But then if you look at the assessment of government in terms of its economic performance, those who say government has performed very badly, 80% in terms of managing the economy. That means only 20% are saying government has done okay. Creating jobs, 81% say government has fared very badly, which puts into perspective the claims that over 2 million, and some would say 3 million jobs have been created. Why do the people still feel this way? I don't know. You answer for yourself. Living standards, 82% say government has performed very badly. Rich and poor gap. In any serious country, you try to narrow the gap between the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots. In this instance, those who say it's one of the highest here, the second highest, that government has failed in that, 88%. And price stability, of course, we're talking about the currency here. 91% say government has performed very badly. This one, you don't need to. It's the index that says it. It's clear. Next slide. Now, if you look at vis-a-vis all of these things, the prices of commodities. Recently, I was looking at the differences from around 2012, 2014 to now in terms of cement prices, and I was horrified, right? If you look at a bowl of groundnut, old price, and I'm talking even recently, old price, 21 cedis. Now it stands at 32 cedis, 52 percentage point increment. A bag of groundnuts, 900 cedis. Now it goes for 1,300 cedis, a hike of 44%. A bag of local rice, 250 cedis. Now it goes for 600 cedis, 140% increment. A bag of millet, which used to go for 950 cedis, which itself, I'm using recent values. So these are things that we went to the market, we gauged and everything, and we've put there. It's now 1,250, 31% jump. Bowl of beans, 55. Now it stands at 75, 36% increment. And if you go to the market, you see these. I'm not to tell you. If you look at a crate of tomatoes, I don't need to tell you. A bowl of corn, 20 cedis, now 25% jump. These are our realities. Next slide. Now, if you look at the inflationary rate, and recently the Ghana Statistical Service came out with new inflation for October, another 0.7% increment. But the trend is simple. Apart from the 54% we found at that point in time, the highest from around 2000 that we had ever had, the point is, if you look at the trajectory, we've not really, if you look at this year, look, in January, it was 23.5%. Look at how it's gone. 25% here, 23. We are back at 22.1%. If you look at the start of the year and the end of the year, what's the difference there? 22.1, about 1.4 percentage points. We've not gone anywhere. We are exactly where we are. It is what it is. Next slide. Now, I'm going to wrap with the Mo Ibrahim Index, right? And that's why I spoke about indices starting this conversation. If you look at the Mo Ibrahim Index of African Governance, focus on sustainable environment, you'd realize that something terrible is happening as far as Ghana is concerned. Ghana suffered the highest deterioration of sustainable environment in the whole of Africa in a decade. I'm talking about between 2014 and 2023. Between 2014 and 2023. The highest deterioration of sustainable environment. And we know part of why. We know part of why. Part of why is Galamsey. Yes. If you look at our drop in the index, it's minus 2.5. Next slide. Now, the key indicators in terms of sustainable environment, promotion of environmental sustainability, enforcement of environmental policies, air quality, sustainable use of land and forests, and we still have LI 2462. Sustainable use of land and forests, forest reserves, we said go ahead and mine. Land and water biodiversity protection, and we've also failed here, woefully, because some of our bio sites, biodiversity sites, remember Etiwa and the rest, and the talk about them. How do we even think in this country? Next slide. And then if you focus that same index, the Mo Ibrahim index, on rule of law and justice, it says Ghana suffered the highest deterioration of rule of law and justice. So not just environment where we suffered the highest deterioration. Rule of law, the same rule of law and justice that we've been touting. Ghana suffered the highest deterioration of rule of law and justice in the whole of Africa in a decade between 2014 and 2023. The drop, 14.9%, minus 14.9, if you like, percentage points. So the whole talk about rule of law, rule of law, rule of law. The Mo Ibrahim Index shows that the talk be talk. You know they work like that. Next slide, as we get ready to wrap. And if you look at that same indicator, their focus was executive compliance with the rule of law, executive compliance with the rule of law, impartiality of the judicial system. Don't put words in my mouth. Judicial processes, equality before the law, law enforcement, and public perception of the rule of law. They say he who feels it knows it. Next slide. And this is where we'll get ready to wrap the conversation. Out of the 54 African countries, if you look at our scores, overall governance, we placed 7th. And that's not the best grade for Ghana, by the way. If you look at other previous ones, we've done way better than this. We can do better. So don't be consoled that it is 7th there. Health, 18th. Security and safety, 30th. Anti-corruption, 21st. That's the tail of the tape. So Ghana 4, I've spoken to you this morning. Let me reiterate. Watch your places of work. Watch your homes. Don't let a fire start, because if it starts, you may not. And don't blame the fire service. They don't have what it takes. They don't have the equipment to deal with those situations. They will try their logistical best, but maybe by the time they get to you, take care of your homes, take care of your offices, take care of your schools, your places of work and all that. Because if there's a fire, you may not save anything. The cost of living in this country has gone through the roof, and sometimes we like to play, sycophant politics and pretend it isn't what it is. This exposes the reality, including our inflationary rates. And if you look at the Mo Ibrahim Index and governance and corruption and justice and other things, in 2 key areas, the deterioration is vast. Sustainable environment, rule of law and justice. It's up to you to decide what you will do with the data. I'm a data man. I put it there. You decide what to think, what to do with the data. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, raw, hot, and edited, undiluted. As always, I pray this is our motherland. May God bless Ghana and make her great and strong. And that depends on what you and we do. Thank you for watching.